Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Jeff Charles, Jim Fight, and Graham Noble. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. Swamp-sitting Republicans and Democrats seem to have forgotten there's a massive human crisis on the southern border with Mexico. Projected illegal crossings for this year are around 2 million, give or take a few, and border states have just about reached the end of their road. Democrats claim there is no crisis. Republicans haven't done much in the way of holding the Biden feet to the fire. And it seems the only proactive immigration plans are being implemented by the governors of those border states. Jeff, you're hanging around in those border state regions a lot these days. Does DC have a clue about the border situation?
Yes, of course they do, Sarah. You know, at first, when this whole thing first started, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt because maybe Biden's team was just brain dead and they didn't realize that their rhetoric and rescinding all of Trump's policies were going to invite more people to the southern border. But fast forward to now, and we see that the situation is getting worse and they're still not doing anything about it. Biden hasn't even been to the border. No, this is by design. So of course they know what's going on. They just don't care. So enter the Abbott Express, enter DeSantis Air. That's why this is going on, because the White House isn't going to do anything about this until they actually get pressure. And they can't just come from the right. It has to come from Democrats themselves. And you and I have talked about this, Sarah. That's the whole reason why they're pulling this. And it is a stunt, but that's the reason why they're pulling this political stunt, because this administration, they don't care about all the fentanyl deaths that have resulted from this. They don't care about the fact that migrants are dying on the way over here. They are staying the course. This is part of their plan. So the only way they'll change course is if there's enough pressure applied.
So do we hope the survivors vote Democrat? Is that what the point is? I don't get the point of any of this and why we don't have any kind of immigration. We have immigration laws in place, but nobody seems to want to follow them. And, you know, Graham wrote a great piece this week on the invasion at Martha's Vineyard of 50 people. So I'm going to throw it to Graham right now. What do you got, Graham?
Well, of course, the first thing you got to say about that is that, DeSantis, I mean, he is now the king troll. I mean, nobody has ever trolled the Democrats harder on immigration than to actually gather 50 illegal immigrants and fly them to Martha's Vineyard, of all places. And I want to say very quickly that just in case there's anybody in Martha's Vineyard right now who's when they watch this show, maybe over brunch or whatever they do up there, I need to apologize to some of you, because in my article, I made it out as if like everybody who lived in Martha's Vineyard is just a despicable hypocrite. And I've actually heard that since the whole incident with the Florida 50, as I call them, that some people in Martha's Vineyard have actually spoken out, kind of defending what DeSantis did, and thought that he really kind of shone a spotlight on a certain problem. And that problem is the hypocrisy of people who say that they welcome illegal immigrants, illegal aliens with open arms, and they are sanctuary cities, but suddenly they're not actually interested in providing sanctuary when those people show up on their doorsteps. And to me, it was just a masterstroke to do that with Martha's Vineyard, because, you know, you can fly them into DC, you can fly them into Delaware, whatever. Nobody really takes any notice of that, you know, especially into some huge, massive city like New York. You know, like 12 million people live there. Who cares if a few hundred immigrants, illegal aliens, I hate to keep calling them immigrants, illegal aliens. I'm an immigrant. When illegal immigrants show up, nobody cares. They're just washed away in the mass of humanity. But when they show up somewhere like Martha's Vineyard, that really shines a spotlight. And it was a masterstroke. I thought so.
But Graham, there's a housing crisis going on in Martha's Vineyard. Those 50 people are out to buy $6 million properties. You have to care for those people. You know, they clothe them and fed them for one day and then kick them out 24 hours later. So my heart goes to the people at Martha's Vineyard.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but the question is, Jim, is it working? Is it working?
I don't know if it's working yet, but it's definitely getting a response. I mean, you asked earlier if the people in the swamp actually were aware of this. Well, I mean, if they weren't, they're definitely getting the hint now. I'll tell you one thing: it is very successfully cracking us up, though. This whole, like Graham said, Martha's Vineyard, that was a masterstroke. That was. Wow.
I have a question for Jeff, because Jeff is really in tune with a lot of polling and election polling. Do these type of issues result in any meaningful change in the ballot box? Will somebody go to the ballot box and say, hey, that Martha's Vineyard not really shine a light into illegal immigration? What do polls tell you, Jeff, about immigration and a bunch of factors?
Yeah, I don't think they'll do so consciously, but this is making an impression. And most people are on board with it. And it's funny, Politico came out with a piece saying that this is going to damage DeSantis with Hispanic voters. And then Politico published another poll showing that most Hispanic voters agree with what these people are doing. I mean, and to Jim's point, there has to be a breaking point, right? And both Abbott and DeSantis have said that they are not going to stop. They're going to ramp this thing up, which is the only way to make this work. It can't just be a short-lived stunt. I mean, Abbott just sent another couple busloads to Vice President Kamala Harris's house a few days ago. So this is going to keep going on, and if they really want this to work, they're going to have to expand it to other cities. They need to get into California and to others to really make an impression. But right now, it seems like it will eventually get to the point where Democrats are going to get tired of it. And like Sarah said, when we talk on LNTV, to go through the back channels, because they're not going to do this publicly, but go through back channels to pressure the administration to finally do something about this.
And I think largely, it really is a total myth that, all the Hispanics, Latinos, however you want to term them, I believe the more correct term is Latinos, but the idea that the Latino community in the United States is all about rights for illegal aliens and letting them in and giving them this, that, and the next thing. It's not true at all. I mean, I used to live in New Mexico, and I had a lot of Latino friends, and they used to, even back then, this was many years ago, and they used to they were horrified, even back then, at the illegal immigration problem, and they were disgusted that people were allowed to come in here undocumented and just walk across the border and then get whatever kind of assistance they were getting. Horrified. And so it's always been a myth. There is no there is no huge, I mean, for a start, the Latino community in this country is very diverse. As diverse as what is it? Breakfast tacos or something, according to Dr. Jill Biden. Maybe some of them, there are activist groups, of course, that are pro immigrants' rights, let's call it that. But a lot of them are not into that at all. They came into this country, many of them legally. They worked very hard, or even if their grandparents or great grandparents actually did come here illegally, they have established themselves legally in this country. They consider themselves Americans. They work very hard. They're not interested in a bunch of people walking across the border.
No, I mean, they did it the right way. In red states, especially in the farming communities, we have seasonal workers here all the time. Nobody looks twice at them, as anything other than, well, they're here to work for Green Giant or whatever. And they come in, they spend a season, they have visas to do that. Some of them actually apply and stay. And if the farm, usually it's the farmers or the people who are the ranchers and farmers, they, apply with them to sponsor them and give them, a good place and a good place to stay so that people aren't worried about it. But, when they just come across the border and nobody knows what's going on anywhere and nobody can keep track of them or know where their kids are, I mean, it's a mess. And I just don't understand how we have gotten this far without a complete explosion down south.
Yeah. And if we want to talk about human trafficking, let's talk about human trafficking, which is actually going on down there at the border and across the border in Mexico and certain other Central American countries. Let's talk about that, because that's the real human trafficking catastrophe, not 50 Venezuelans getting a free flight to one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the country.
Yeah, unfortunately, Democrats would rather downplay the experience of actual victims of human trafficking and modern day slavery and sex trafficking to score a few cheap political points against DeSantis. It's absolutely disgusting.
Agreed. Well, it doesn't look as if the Abbott Express is stopping service anytime soon to those bastions of blue. And really, most folks have to admit, it highlights the hypocrisy of those virtue signaling sanctuary city status states. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to surf on over to libertynation.com. Join us on the Member Zone, just $17.76 for the whole year. Special thanks to our fantastic editor and post coordinator, Frank Diorio. I'm Sarah Cowgill, filling in for Lisa K. Donner. Thanks for joining us today. This has been a production of libertynation.com, where truth is making a comeback.